Hey guys, welcome to, I think we're at week 15. I think we're at week 15 of social studies. So this chart should look somewhat familiar. You were introduced to it last week when we talked about the judicial branch of government, and you saw on Friday the executive branch of government. So the branches of government. I explained to you in our first YouTube video last week on this topic that government is always going to be a hot topic, no matter where you go. However, depending on where you go, will really decide how people talk about our government. If you are in the United States, you will have a much different conversation about the United States government than if you go to some place like Brazil, one of the countries that we visited when we did our continent tour. Or if you're in China, they're going to talk a lot different about our government. Regardless of what you personally have heard about our government, especially when it came to the election, um, everybody's going to have their personal opinion. However, when it comes to understanding our government, it is a very important uh, responsibility, I would say, because as a citizen of the United States, and the fact that many of us are to the age or close to the age where we can vote and we can choose who runs our government, we need to know exactly who we're voting for. We need to understand why we're voting. And we're not just voting because we like a certain candidate. Unfortunately, some adults do that, but in reality, we vote because we want to pick somebody who is going to do what we feel is the best for our country. Now, when we're talking about our president, when we look at the executive branch of government, a lot of us think that the president is the person who just runs our government. They decide everything. And that is not the case at all. We learned last week that the judicial branch of government is in charge of making sure that all of our laws are fair. It is not the president's job to do that. It is not the president's job to make sure that he or she is following our Constitution, which are the laws of our land. It is their job to decide this is what I think needs to be enforced, and I'm going to do it because that is the job of the president to enforce the laws. Throughout this week, we will be introduced to the last branch of government, which is actually considered the first branch of government. And you will learn by the end of the week, it is also considered to be the most powerful, even though we have that thing called checks and balances, where each branch of government checks each other out. They make sure that everybody else is doing their job. And really, nobody has more power than the other branch. But if you would read the Constitution, in the very, very beginning in the 1700s, they did say that the legislative branch was the most powerful. But throughout the years, that has changed. Now, as we talk this week about the executive branch in particular, if you're looking at our chart down on the right side, you will hear me talk about the three levels of government. Remember, that is federal, which is talking about Washington, D.C., state level of government, that's talking about Harrisburg, Governor Wolf, and then local government is talking about your mayor or your township supervisors or city council, depending on whatever your town uses, because we all use different people. All right. So that level of government is very important when we're talking about the executive branch. When we get to the legislative branch, though, you're really just talking about the United States government. We're talking about the White House. Or if you look at the legislative branch part, we'll be mentioning the U.S. Capitol building. This is where the people from the legislative branch, the House and the Senate, and you will learn much more about them in the coming days. The US Capitol building is where they go to do their job, which is to make the laws of the United States. So once again, we see the president doesn't hold all the powers. The president just enforces the law. They do not make sure that the laws are constitutional, and he or she does not make the laws, period. It is just making sure that the laws get enforced. All right, so let's finish out our units on the United States government. Please pay very close attention. And I'm looking forward